Today I have with me Bryan Crawford from New Mexico Dreamhouse. Hello, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Good. All right. So, what is the story behind you getting into real estate?
It's a bit of a long story, but I was working a kind of a 9 to 5, not really a 9 to 5 job, but I was a traveling salesman, spending about 100 nights a year in a hotel. And I went to sell my very first house. My wife and I decided we were going to upsize and possibly build or just get a bigger, nicer house. And we just had a terrible experience. So when we had that experience, I told my wife, and there were other factors that went into this, but I told her one night and I said, "Hey, I'm going to quit my job and go into real estate." And she kind of laughed at me. And we started working through the logistics of it. I had already had several conversations about it before I even mentioned it. And she decided, so I'm in Wyoming on one of my business trips, and she calls me and goes, "Hey, what is this? It just arrived at our doorstep." I said, "I don't know, like open it up." She opens it up and it's my real estate books. And she goes, "Well, it's like real estate something." And I said, "Oh, those are my real estate licensing books." And she goes, "Oh, you're serious?" I said, "Yeah, I'm dead serious." Um, so we put together a pretty cohesive plan on what we were going to do step by step to kind of get out of that W-2 employment grind and step into self-employment. And it took us about 6 months to develop and execute a plan. So in November of 16, I quit my job and went into real estate full time.
Wow. So, would you say that real estate is better than your other job? Do you like it a lot more? Is it more of a free schedule for you with that?
Well, I don't necessarily know that it's the free schedule because, the fact of the matter is that I work harder than I ever have. But I get to do it for myself and I'm building a legacy and I'm building a team and I'm building opportunities for myself and for my family. As far as the work goes, I feel like it's a lot more meaningful. Before I was in business to business sales, so it was a lot less relational than it was strictly about delivery time and price. And that was really it. The engineers picked the specifications for the items, so you could engineer a spec and do some different things in that world. But ultimately, a home purchase is the biggest decision somebody will make in their life. So for me, I find it to be much more fulfilling than simply uh, doing business sales.
Yeah, cool. So, at what age did you just like, were you motivated as a kid to like do big things when you grew up, or did you just like feel that when you got into like the workforce?
And sorry about that. My phone. I thought I had put it on silent. From the time I was a kid, I always had hopes and dreams and goals and ambitions. And in the fourth grade, I think is when I started really, yeah, I was in the fourth grade when I started my first business, and it got shut down by the school. But I had some friends who were really artistic. I don't have an artistic bone in my body, so they were building bookmarks and coloring sheets and keychains and random stuff like that. And I developed a market for that. And while the teacher would leave the room on break or to go make copies or whatever, I would literally like flip out my sign and be like keychains for 25 cents and that sort of thing. So that was
Very
my first
entrepreneurial.
entrepreneurial venture. What's that?
I said very entrepreneurial of you.
Yeah. And then from there I went my first job was mowing lawns, so I would go around and convince people to let me mow their lawn instead of them doing it for themselves. I even tried to have employees at the time. Problem was they didn't show up, so I learned very early that having the right people involved is important. But yeah, I mean, I've always kind of wanted to light the world on fire, so to speak.
Yeah. So, like, did you have a mentor when you like as you were kind of like getting into the business of real estate, or did you just not have one? It was just more of your personal motivation.
I had several mentors. I think one of them, primarily Matt Templeton. He's an investor slash team leader for Keller Williams out of urban Dallas, and great guy. So he was really helpful in getting started. The other one, there, Keller Williams is the number one training organization in the U.S., and that's not just real estate companies, that's just in general. So my partnership with Keller Williams has created relationships with people who have mentored me along the way. So I would say I can't say that I've had one mentor that's just kind of walked me through step by step. A lot of it's self-taught, but I've had a lot of mentors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were saying you were self-taught quite a bit, but like mentors did help. But like, would you say that like books helped with that? You were self-teaching yourself through books, or just self-teaching yourself just like by learning along the way?
Yeah, I think learning along the way is helpful, and obviously, as far as getting applicable wisdom, that's the most important thing. But books are invaluable. So there's a book that we have that was given to me called The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, and effectively, I read that thing twice before I ever got into the business. And I read that book probably I go through it on audiobook once a month, and I read it physically each quarter. And the reason I do that is there was somebody who introduced me to the idea. I can't even remember who it was now, of not just reading books and lots of books, but devouring books and going back to those same books for content. So if you find a valuable book, it's really important to go back through and and learn along the way. In that particular book, they interviewed the top 100 agents in the country and developed a system of best practices. So that was a big one for me. Um, Books, I've been an avid reader since I discovered, really, for lack of a better term, self-help books. Um, Zig Ziglar was my favorite. Was like the first book that I read. The whole time I was in high school, I don't think I finished a book because it was all novels and I still don't read novels. I just don't like them. I read business books. I read biographies, and I read how-to books and that sort of thing. But I've only been through, I think, one novel in my adult life, and that was The Count of Monte Cristo. Is the only one that kept me intrigued enough to finish it. But yeah, I probably read um, for a series of years. I was reading on average 1 to 2 books a week.
Wow, that's a lot of books in a year. So, what books other than the other book you recommended would for like me or other people who are wanting to kind of get in the same field?
Yeah, as far as getting into real estate, I think I think that's like the best selling book, that right, the first one too, on how to become a millionaire. The guys from Bigger Pockets have several books on real estate investing. Read all those; those are fantastic. Um, I, I would say as far as real estate goes, I would read everything from the Pockets blog. I would also read everything that Gary Keller's ever written. The guy's a billionaire genius. Um, who has the number one real estate company in the world. So it might be a little bit biased since I'm associated with Keller Williams, but I think that's probably anything that he's written. Pat Hyben wrote a book called Six Steps to Seven Figures. There's another book, I can't remember the name of it, how to last in real estate, or something to that effect. Um, so those are a few that I would visit for sure.
Yeah.
The ones that I would avoid if you want to become a real estate investor, and I know I read your questions ahead of time. Dave Ramsey is fantastic in so many ways. Love Dave Ramsey. Made my personal life so much better, and we apply a lot of the principles he talks about in our personal life. The problem is he subscribes to this idea that all debt is bad. Um, that's categorically
Not true.
false. Every millionaire I know, and he keeps talking about, well, find me one millionaire who has $1 million in liquidity. Nobody has $1 million in liquidity. No, there's nobody who's super wealthy who has that kind of liquidity. There was a big article that came out last week where Elon Musk said, he's a billionaire and he's basically cash poor. You got to keep those. You got to keep those dollars moving. And actually, there's one more book that it's almost like a booklet. It's like very small. But The Richest Man in Babylon. Anybody who wants to invest or is intrigued by investing has to read that book. It's very short. You could literally get off this podcast and go read it in less than an hour.
How many years were you into real estate investing before you were able to let your business run itself?
I'll let you know when I get there.
What motivates you most just to keep on going?
I think that changes over time, and I think there's a couple things. One of the biggest things is we live in a community that's primarily natural gas field, and I don't know if you know about the natural gas market, but it's not great. So our economy has taken a few hits between our coal-fired power plants and our natural gas. It's taken some hits. Um, what drives me currently is I want to create opportunities for my boys. I have four kids, all boys, 6, 5, 2, and 4 months. And I never want them to come to me when they're 19 or 20 years old and say, "Hey, Dad, I'm going to have to move to Dallas because there just aren't any opportunities here." And if they want to move to Dallas, like I'm not here to hold them back, but I want to create opportunities for their growth so that they don't have to rely on somebody else for their economic well-being, including myself. I want to equip them with the tools to go out and create wealth by themselves. And yeah, I mean, if they come to me and they're 20 years old and they say, or even 15 years old, um, and they say, "Hey, Dad, I want to make money. Here's my idea." We're going to sit down. We're going to scrub through that business plan, and they will have to have a business plan for me to put money into it. But I'll say, "Okay, let's look at this. Let's hone it in, and yeah, I'll invest in it." Like, so I think a lot of that is what drives me. I want to create opportunities for my boys and my family.
Yeah, I mean, the parents are the launch pad for the children, so like they're going to do probably pretty well just based on what you do. And how does your work affect your family? Does it like take away from the time with them, or does it increase the time with them?
Um, I'd say it's both and a lot of it's seasonal. Last year was it was just a very tough year for me. Personally, I lost a really good friend to cancer, and mentally, I just needed some time. So last year, I took about a month off. I took some time off in the summertime. Megan and I went to Cancun for a week with some friends, and then we came back, and I took Thanksgiving off and almost the entire week of Thanksgiving. And then I took 10 days off at the beginning of December last year. We went to Orlando and rented an Airbnb and took my parents and my in-laws and everybody just hung out in Orlando for 10 days, and it was fantastic and it was really restful. And I couldn't have done that with my last job. The money just wasn't there for that. This year, I think in a lot of ways because of the time that I took off in the fourth quarter, our first quarter was really slow. So this year I took one day off for Thanksgiving. Um, so I took Thanksgiving off and I went back to work Friday. And so this year I've just been working my face off. So I think some of it's seasonal, but we're going to have some downtime. We have some scheduled downtime in January. I schedule my growth at the beginning of the year, so I've got a couple events that I'm trying to make it to next year, or not trying to. I intend to make it to next year. Um, so yeah.
So, how can a young man like myself start building a business and just kind of like be successful by the time I hit the workforce and I'm able to actually start investing and all that?
Um, what do you mean by the time you hit the workforce? I find that to
Well,
be kind of a
well,
complex question.
by the time I hit the age where I can actually start investing, or like I mean, if I guess I could do investing now.
How old are you?
I'm 14, so I have like probably 7 years, 5 years before I can actually start investing and actually like working hard.
No, no, that's a myth. I Here's the thing is that we have this habit in the United States where we have this prolonged adolescence, and we really feel like 18, 19, 20 years old is really when you should get started with life. The reality of it is, had somebody talked to me, if I could go back and you're me, 15 years ago, or well, let's see, 16 years ago, I'll date myself here. 16 years ago when I was 14 years old, I would have said this. I would have said, "You know what? You have the internet. You have the ability to go into eBay and you can hit eBay and you can buy stuff for cheap. You can do the offer now thing and then hit peak times and sell that stuff. You can go on Amazon.com and you can become an Amazon affiliate, and you can boost social media posts, and you can create passive income through affiliate links and that sort of thing. Um, you have a lot of opportunity at 14 that frankly I didn't have, because the internet, we didn't have a computer in the house until I was in college. I know that sounds crazy, but the first camera phone came out my junior year of high school. So the world has changed so quickly, and what that means is we have this consolidation of wealth where the poor, and I know this is kind of just a pundit talking point, but the poor are getting poorer and the rich are getting richer. Um, but nobody told you which field you have to be in. You have all the opportunity in the world, and you have to go and create those opportunities. So the first thing I would say is, if you want to work and you want to create wealth and you want to do well in business, you can start right now. Nobody's telling you no.
Plans do you have for the future of your business?
Um, my short term plans is that I want to have 30. I want to have 40% market share in San Juan County by 2022. Um, which is significant. There are very few markets in the country where a particular real estate agent has 40% market share. That's a very rare thing, but it has been done in other markets, and it can be done in my market, and I intend to do so. My goal is to have 10 rentals um, by 2022 as well. So, and then I'll start a very aggressive debt payoff plan, and we'll start leveraging the cash flow off of those first 10, rolling them into the first one. Right now, I'm using all my cash flow for down payments and improvements on the properties that I already own. Once I have 10 properties, um, I'm going to start. I'm going to reverse the track and start paying off the first one, and then snowball my debt down, because I don't particularly like debt. Um, it doesn't make me near as nervous as it makes Megan, and we're not. We don't live in a vacuum. My business life definitely affects my personal life, and there have been times when I go out and I over leverage debt, and I buy properties and not all of them are cash flowing yet, or I don't have tenants in the right place, or December comes around and you've got a storage facility and half of the people won't pay or actually it was something like 75% of the people didn't pay rent in December. So combined with that, we evicted a tenant like December last year was a very tough year for cash flow for us. So my primary motivation is to be free enough where I don't have to do anything. Um, I'm not forced to do anything because I need the money. So that's why 10 houses is kind of that magic number. I want 10 rental properties valued at roughly 100,000, give or take $20,000, cash flowing 250 a month after property management expenses, because that's part of it. Is I don't want to. The property manager thing makes sense because I don't want to mess with the properties. I want to deal with my primary business. So I mean, those are kind of my short term and long term plans. But my long term plan is just freedom. So 10 years from now, I want to be able to do whatever the heck I want to do, whether that's developing real estate, whether that's whatever. I just want to do what I want to do.
Yeah. And how do you decide what to spend your time on? Because you're very busy and you only have so many hours in a day. Like, how do you just like, this is going to be worth my time?
Um, you know, that's a great question, because time is the only thing that it's the only finite resource, because money is a finite resource by definition. Um, but I can't think of a time when Warren Buffett stopped making money. There's no ceiling to the wealth. And that's why being a millionaire, 40, 50 years ago was a big deal. And today it's just not that big of a deal. You want to be a 10 millionaire or a billionaire. And that's I think a lot of it is because markets grow, but time, we have 24 hours. That's it. So I, this is going to sound really selfish, but I intentionally scrub relationships out of my life that are not conducive to my goals, um, and my family's needs, and that's difficult. Um, I don't prioritize uh, certain relationships, and I prioritize other relationships. My friends are all in a I think the biggest thing that I could say to somebody who's 14 years old is pick your friends. Um, because there's this thing out there called the rule of fives, where you're the average of your five closest friends. And that's kind of it was kind of just a working theory, but you give me your five closest friends and you're going to be an average of them. And this goes to net worth, it goes to spiritual well-being, body fat percentage. I mean, you are who you hang with. So, so as far as managing my time goes, in my leisure time, I prioritize who I want to hang out with. So it's my wife and my kids primarily. We have some close friends that we hang out with every Friday night, um, and I want to be with people who are either where I'm going or want to be where I am. So I've got my guys at work who are on my team, and those guys, I I have a responsibility to groom them and build them into the men that they want to be. And at the same time, the other people that I'm hanging out with are people with a much higher net worth, or maybe they're just in a better place theologically or spiritually or whatever. But I think the biggest thing you can do is be intentional with your relationships. Um, and there's some time blocking stuff that's really helpful. So you can block off your time and plan your day a little bit better, and it's helpful.
Can you give me 5 tips on real estate?
Five tips on real estate. What do you want to do? Real
Five tips
estate's
that
a
will help me
broad term.
become a successful real estate investor.
Um, I think the first thing is just do it. Um, it's kind of it's a big step to just jump into real estate investing, um, but just do it. It's big. Find a way to make a deal happen. Whether that's linking up with people on blogs, whether that's I know your dad's active in real estate investing. Maybe you come up with a $10,000 nest egg and partner with him on a deal, because you may not be able to finance anything, being that you're under 18, but the wealthiest people I know are wealthy because they're creative. So you got to be creative about that. So number one is do it. Number two is be creative. Um, Number three is know your numbers. So this could be as simple as checking out, local brokerages listings and looking at what they have, and then working the numbers. All the property management websites in your area probably have a website where their properties are listed. So be looking at rents so that you can understand what a property is going to rent for. Be looking at pictures of properties. Just be looking at it and saturate yourself in the real estate market, because you don't know a good deal until you're in it. Number four, don't beat yourself up when you mess up. You're going to mess up. I mess up more than anybody I know. I've had mistakes that cost me more than most people make in a month, and it's okay. I learned something on every single one of those deals. And like I said, money is abundant. It will come to you. It's not, if you do the right thing and you work hard, money's going to come. So don't beat yourself up. Number five, I would go to any and every. I would take every opportunity to be around people who invest in real estate. You probably have a local real estate investment club. You probably have maybe a couple of realtors who do some listings and stuff. See if you can shadow those guys for a day. See if you can, do lunch with somebody or just swing by for an hour with somebody who owns a property management company. I would use your YouTube channel as a platform to find out what you want to find out. For me, I run the education committee at our business center at Keller Williams, and I run it selfishly. I don't think very much of what other people need to learn as much as what I need to learn. Because if I need to learn it, surely somebody else needs to learn it. So I had a guy named Evan Schuster come down in November and talk to us about geographic farming. And I did that because I wanted to learn more about it. So you can be selfish with your YouTube channel. Oh, sorry, the screen went blank for a second. But you can be selfish with your YouTube channel. Think about the things that you want to learn and interview people that you want to talk to. So yeah, networking, number 5 in summary.
How do you evaluate a real estate deal, and what are you currently looking for?
Right now I'm just looking for residential resale. I'm looking for. I bought a storage unit last year. It was not in my wheelhouse. I sold it this year. I took a bath on it. Um, I had 6 units, and it just was not my gig. I'm not near organized enough for that. So right now I'm looking for residential single family properties, and that's it. We may build a commercial property next year. That's kind of in the it's in the back of my mind, but it's not my wheelhouse. I sell residential real estate, so this is going to sound arrogant, but I think when you're in real estate, you have to know this. I don't think there's anybody who knows the market better than I do when it comes to residential real estate in our area. So
you know what it's like.
What's that?
I said you're in it, so you know what it's like.
Exactly. I spend literally tens of thousands of dollars every year to market and get in front of people who own properties. So for me, I mean, I might go on a listing appointment this afternoon and somebody says, you know what, I just want out. And if it's a deal that's mutually beneficial, I could buy a property this afternoon. It really just depends. So I'm primarily looking for properties that will appraise around 100 grand, that I can buy for about 75 grand. And I can dump maybe 5 grand into it and bump that appraisal amount up to 110. And then I typically, my strategy, and I don't know if they're legal in Ohio where you're at, but New Mexico, we have the benefit of the real estate contract, so we can still wrap up properties. A lot of places you can't do that. So I'm looking for real estate contracts on single family dwellings.
How do you choose your team members?
That's a great question, and probably the most important thing that I've learned this year.
Yeah.
I had a team of 6 people last year, and I had a few good eggs on that team, and I had a few that we just didn't jive. It's not that anybody was like a bad person necessarily, but we just didn't jive. And not only did we not jive, but our values were different. So we established on our real estate team, we established our mission, vision, and values, and that came out of Patrick Lencioni. Have you read anything by Patrick Lencioni?
I don't think so, no.
Okay. So add that to your book list. Patrick Lencioni, good dude. He's he actually does these. He calls them business fables, but he talks a lot about values. And so what I realized in going through his book last year is that it wasn't necessarily that the people who were on my team were bad people. It was just that they didn't match my values. So before somebody comes onto my team, they have to be humble. It's really important. I mean, you have to be self-assured. There's a big difference between being arrogant and sure of yourself. But humility is big, and competitive. If you're not competitive, I have no idea how I'm going to motivate you, because I look at the numbers literally every day and see who I'm knocking off the top, and I'm climbing that ladder, and that started from day one in real estate. I'm very competitive. I want to be surrounded by people who are competitive. The other one is fun. I spent a lot of years in jobs that I didn't like, that I didn't have fun with. Our real estate team, we have so much fun at work, and that might be, it could be anything from Easton one day brought in a Nerf gun and he shot me with it, um, and then he throws me a Nerf gun. We had this Nerf battle in the office, and we had a blast with it. Um, we saw an internet challenge the other day, the chair challenge. We did a live video of that, but we all tried it, and it was fun because evidently there's this thing that guys can't do that women can do very easily. And it all comes down to like this whole chair challenge. You can Google that. But we just have fun. We razz each other. We're not always nice to each other. No, everybody on my team has a thick skin because I'm not. I don't have time to coddle you when I'm motivating you. I want to be able to walk up to anybody on my team. And some people perceive this as cruel, but it's just efficient in my mind. And you have to be okay with it if you're going to be on my team. I'm going to come up to you and I'm going to say, dude, your numbers aren't working. What is going on? Is this a skills issue? Is it a work ethic issue? What is the issue that we can get down to that? But I don't mind calling somebody out on the carpet and saying, why aren't you performing? Here's your numbers. Why are they like this? So you have to have a thick skin. So I look for people, before, where I went wrong last year is I was looking for production. So I brought in some real heavy hitters when it came to production. And the problem is when they joined my team, their production went down. And I never want that. If you're going to join me, you better be better off with me than without me. Because if you could do better without me, like neither one of us should be in business with one another. And I firmly believe that. I think everybody on the team right now is better off because they're on the team. And those guys, because we jive well together, my production goes up because I enjoy coming to work. I enjoy competing with these guys. I've got some guys who are, well, you'll appreciate this. I got a 20-year-old guy, I got a 22-year-old guy, and they're kicking butt. These guys are, next year they'll both knock down over 6 digits, and they're in their early 20s.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a very efficient group. So
I do now, but what I had to learn in bringing people on is I had to tear the team down before I could rebuild it to what it needed to be. So we went from 6 people to 2 people up to 4 again. Now we're at 4. But the thing is that our team is running a higher level of production with 4 people than we were with 6.
Yeah, sometimes more is not better, just because when 4 people can jive better than 6 that are miscommunicating and all that junk. So
Right.
how does your Christianity affect your business?
That's multifaceted in every way. We're holistic beings. So I think the biggest thing is that you have to operate with integrity, and you do that in a way that honors God. But the other thing is there was actually a book that I read years ago called Every Good Endeavor by Tim Keller, and I read it probably once a year. But he talks about the Christian's role in the workplace and how all work is meaningful. And I really like that, and I'll get into more theologically complex ideas, but I really like that post-millennial Presbyterian eschatology, and I don't necessarily know that I'm convicted of it biblically. I kind of lean that way pretty heavily, but for me, I really like the idea of you start with a garden, and you start with basically dirt and plants, and the scripture ends with a city. So you start with a garden and end with a city. So the creation mandate is to fill the earth and subdue it. So it honors God when we dominate a market, because us coming in, when we came into the real estate market here in San Juan County, my goal was to fundamentally change the way real estate was marketed in San Juan County, and we did that. And what it's done is, in my opinion, when you produce high quality photographs and videography and 3D imaging internet lead generation at a high level, what it does for a market is it brings a lot more buyers into the market. So our goal isn't to come in and push everybody else out of the way. Our goal is to not just, it's not a zero sum game where you start with one piece of pie and everybody only ever gets that piece of pie. We want to grow the pie, and we want to build more pies. So all of that comes back to I would say the creation mandate of we're called to fill the earth and subdue it. And the best way I can subdue the earth is by building a fantastic business that builds men. That's our mission. That's one of the points of mission on our real estate team, is that we want to build men. And when we do that, everybody wins. So all of that comes out of my Christian worldview, because if I can build men, and I can build women and young women too. Right now I just have 4 guys on the team, including myself. But if we can build up young people to go out and do good business, and we're teaching them to invest. So like Easton owns his house, Brendan owns a rental property, Bryan owns his house. So everybody on my team owns real estate. And my goal is not only, and I'm not here yet, my net worth goal 3 years from now is $1 million. I want to have $1 million in net worth. And I think we'll actually do that faster than 3 years, because it kind of hockey sticks up. But my goal is not only to have me be a millionaire, but I also want to bring my team along with me. And I want to create other millionaires who have the same values. Because if you have the same values and you believe that we start with a garden and end with a city, we can transform our community through the sale and acquisition of real estate. And that's what our mission is. So our mission is to improve lives through the sale and acquisition of real estate. Or our vision is to build men, dominate markets, and revitalize communities. Yeah. And then our values are to be competitive, fun, humble, hungry, and smart. And it's that simple. So anyway, so all of that flows out of my Christian worldview.
What is the most rewarding part of your work?
I think it's seeing other people succeed. I get pumped about that. I have a nice vehicle. My wife has a really nice vehicle, and I have a nice vehicle that I bought back in 2015. It's got over 100,000 miles on it. I own a nice house. I own a couple of rental properties right now. I've done some flips. I've done that sort of thing, and all of that's benefited me and my family. But I think the most thing that's happened in my career is I have one guy on the team who started with me. He's been with me longer than anybody. Great guy, high level of integrity, hard worker, a lot of fun, very competitive. He bought his first house this summer. And I think that's what's most rewarding is not all the stuff that I want. Like, yeah, I mean, no doubt I want a Lamborghini. And there's nothing wrong with that. I want a nice garage with a lift in it that has the epoxy floors and the stainless steel cabinets and all that stuff, so I can display my beautiful cars and I want that stuff. Yeah. But I think when I feel most fulfilled is when I'm empowering other people to go out and get their goals, and that's what's most fulfilling about my job.
Yeah. And what is the least rewarding part of your job?
I think I give 100% at work, and every now and again, for the most part, our clients really like us, and we have very high customer satisfaction ratings. We have 5-star reviews on all the major websites. So, but every now and again, you'll get to the end of a transaction, and people just don't appreciate what you've done. And for me, it's really not. This is going to sound cliche. It's not really about the money. I mean, I make plenty of money, and the money just comes if you do the right thing. and obviously those goals are monetary, but money's it's a gauge. It's not the end all. But I think the least rewarding part is when you get to the end of a deal that was hard, that you know that you worked your face off for, and people just don't appreciate it.
Yeah, because that
But
it's your
that's
time, it's your money, it's time away from your family, time away from things you'd like to be doing, trying to help them. And
right. And I would say those are few and far between.
oh
I
yeah,
mean, for the
because
most part, we
there's
have,
lots of wonderful people out there. The
yeah.
bad ones are just not bad ones, but so. Do you feel that it is silly to go to college and get a degree when you could spend or invest that money elsewhere?
No, I don't. I think for me, college wasn't a good fit, and I think if you're going to go, believe me when I say, like, if you're going to go spend 60, 70, $80,000 to go, to go get a business degree, forget about it. Just go to work for somebody who has a really high level of business savvy, earn while you learn, rat hole all the money that you make and go start your own thing, because you're going to learn a lot more doing it and being involved in it than you are going to a classroom. I mean, I went to college for, 3 semesters. I'm 3.5 semesters. I'm like 12 credit hours away from a degree. People have chastised me for not finishing it. I just don't have any desire to finish it.
Yeah,
It's not
that's
going
what
to enhance my life, and it's not something I want to spend my time on. But if you want to be a doctor, and your passion is to help people through advancements in the medical field, you're not going to do that without a degree.
yeah, no,
Um, so it's not, when it comes to choosing your profession or whatever it is, it it's not about money, because you can make money doing anything. I mean,
yeah,
literally, I make money going out and talking with people, and that's how I make my money. Um, and there's more to it than that, but that's the gist of it. Um, so, but you're not going to practice law without a degree. You're not gonna be in the medical field without a degree. You're not going to be a teacher in most cases without a degree. So I would say chase your passion, and if something you're passionate about requires a degree, yeah, go throw down some money and go get yourself a diploma. Be wise about that. You probably shouldn't spend $250,000 getting a master's in Russian art theory, or whatever. But there are people who make money doing that too. So, it's chase your passion. It's not all about ROI when it comes to education.
well, sir, I thank you for spending some time with me today and just giving me some facts on your trade of business. And I just want to thank you again for investing your time.
Hey, absolutely. I appreciate you, and best of luck to you on everything you're trying to accomplish.
You too. Thank you, sir.
Hey, thanks, man.